So I think we can start. I think my connection is okay. We can confirm here. Okay, let's begin. So what we are going to look at today is something we call data encoding. And this is a pre-processing step that we usually do when dealing with machine learning. So we have data encoding here. And what does data encoding do? So data encoding allows you to convert categorical features to be numerical data. So we are going to use just some samples to do this, and I'm going to show you two methods of data encoding today. And this brings us to rule number one of ML models. So rule number one, so rule number one of working with ML data. Okay, so all data must be numeric. So that's rule number one when working with ML data. So I'm going to add these up here, and then we can proceed on with the data encoding. Hello, hello, Dennis. Okay, let's proceed. So here we have data encoding. So if we check our DF board head, we have a few columns that we can encode. Okay, so for example, I can encode the mail column, I can encode the item purchased column, and I can encode the category column. So what I'll do is I'll just pick a subset of this data, and we are going to use that subset to encode our data. So I'm going to say df subset should be equal to df, then I select the gender column, I select the item purchased column, and after the item purchased column, we are going to select the category column. Then I'm going to say dot copy for us to get a copy of this data and not affect the original data. Then I'm going to type in df subset dot head and see what we got. So this is the data we have. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to work on creating this copy, and then we can proceed. Okay, so we can proceed. And the first thing we are going to do is we are going to create a data map. Okay, and for the data map, we are going to use the gender column to demonstrate this. And there we will have male being equal to 1. Then we are going to have female being equal to 2. So something like that. So this is how we create a data map. And yeah, so I'm going to show you how we do it. So first of all, what we do is we create a dictionary. We create a dictionary with the key. And the value. Okay, so here we are going to have our gender underscore map being equal to, so this is our dictionary. So I'm going to say male, then male should be equal to 1, comma, then I'm going to say female, and then female will be encoded by 2. That's what we have. And if I print out my gender map, this is what we have. So this is a dictionary that we are going to use to encode this column. So this is method number 1. Okay, so I'll add that here. Method 1, which is create a data map and then encode your data. And remember, what we are looking at now is rule number 1. So when working with the ML models, all data must be numeric. So we haven't gone to the ML fit modeling part because as we started, I mentioned that that's the easiest part. So the hard part is what we are handling right now, okay? Where we have to process our data and ensure everything is running just fine and the data is in the correct format. Okay, so let's proceed. Hope you are done with this part for creating the mapping. Then what we usually do is we use the map function. So I believe you are shown this in the basics of Python class. So first of all, we select the gender column. So I'm going to say df underscore subset, then gender dot map. Then I'm going to map my gender map. Okay, so that's what we do. And if we run this, you can see we have ones and twos there for our mapping. So basically that's how the mapping works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this again and say df underscore subset gender should be equal to df underscore subset gender dot map gender map. That's what we will do. then once you've done the mapping, we are going to check our data and see the changes that have happened. Yeah, so 2 minutes you work on this and then we can proceed. Yes, Dennis.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I'm getting an error on that one. I don't know. Why.
For this one, this part here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So confirm. So what is the error saying, first of all?
The F subset is not defined.
Okay. So did you run this code up here first?
Okay, let me just check and then
Okay.
okay, I can. Okay, let me run it and then get back.
So if you
Thanks.
get an error again, you'll inform me.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so 1 minute, you complete this and then we can proceed. Okay, let me try zoom in again. Okay, so I believe we can now proceed. So what we are going to check is our subset head. So we are going to have df.subset.head. And if we run that, you can see the gender column is now numeric. So we have ones and twos. So we've sorted out one of the column with one of the ways in which we can encode our data. So that's method number one. So method number two is using pandas inbuilt library. But the disadvantage of using method number two is we will create new additional columns. So we will have more new columns as compared to what we have right now at the moment. So that's the disadvantage of using method number 2. But I will show you how we do it. So method number 2 is straightforward and easy also as compared to this method that we've done for mapping. Okay, so hope you are done with this. So let's go to method number 2, which is the pandas get dummies method. So convert all these other columns that are categorical to be numeric. So what we do is we type in our data frame, so df underscore subset. Then we say, okay, so of that first, so it should be pd dot get underscore dummies. Then we type in our data set. Then we specify the columns. So columns should be, we should have the items purchased column, comma, then we should have the category column, and then we can run this. So copy that and run it, and then we can proceed, and then I can tell you what we have in here. Okay, so let's proceed. So here we have the pds.getDummies method, where we pass in our data frame, then columns, we specify the columns that we want to encode. So one thing you need to note is, okay, so for df, we defined df up here last night. So this is where we created our data frame. So you have to run this again if you need your df to be outputted. Then this is where we started our code today by creating a copy of our data frame with some few sample columns. Yeah. So hope you remember that. Yeah. So let's proceed and finalize on what we are working on today. Yeah, so here we have, for example, item purchased backpack. So in each and every instance where this item purchased is not a backpack, we will have a false value. And if the item purchased is a backpack, we have true appearing. So you can see here we have false and true as our values. So for our false and true values considered as numbers, yes, we can consider them as numbers. Because if I say something like false is equal to 0, you can see that's true. And is true equal to 1, then that's true. So it means that false and true are both numbers. So again, you can see the disadvantage of using this method to encode your data. So you can see for the gender column, we have only a single column. But for the other columns where we use the get dummies method, we have additional columns. So now instead of our data having 3 columns, our data now has 30 columns. From initially having 3 columns, our data now has 3 columns. And that's the reason as to why I showed you the map function first. And then I went on ahead and showed you the get dummies method. So there is a way in which you can ask a question like, for example, in a case whereby these item purchased were more than maybe let's say 20 categories, how can you create a map function like this with all those 20 categories? So the answer is you don't have to do that. So there is a library in ML that we can use to encode our data easily. But today, because we are still discussing the basics of Python and looking at some of the basic things we do when dealing with Python, we will stick to the use of pandas first. And then after that, apologies for that. After that, we can shift to ML. Yeah, so that's it for today. So we've answered question number 1. So all data must be numeric. So I've shown you how we can convert categorical columns to be numeric. Any questions on what we've looked at today? Or any part you've not understood that you need clarification on? Yes, Jesse.
Sir, my
Yeah,
question is,
yes.
what are we trying to achieve, or what's the end goal in doing the data mapping and getting all the numerics in those subsets?
Okay.
What is the end?
So the end goal is when fitting machine learning models. So this is rule number 1. I said that all data must be numeric. So we have to convert all our data to be numeric at first. So that's what we are dealing with now. Does that answer your question? Like, for example, maybe I can try draw that for you and you can get to see what I mean. So if this was our data, let's say this was our data 1, okay? And let's say data 1 had the column gender, had a column XX, and had a column YY. So for the gender column, we have M, F, F, M. So M stands for female, F, female. M stands for male, F, female. Then here we had X, Y, Z, X. And then here we had O, M, let's say I. So if we wanted to fit an ML model to the above data, so we will get an error, okay? And what error will we get? So data is not numeric, right? So what do we do? So we have to convert that data to be numeric. So we would have here data 2. So for data 2, we will have the same columns, gender, XX, YY. So already we've said that males should be 1, females should be 2. So we will have 1, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Then for the other columns, we can say let our X be equal to 1, our Y be equals to 2, then Z be equal to 3. So here where we have X, we will have 1. Where we have Y, we will have 2. Where we have Z, we will have 3, then 1. Then for the other part, we will say something like let O be equal to 1, M be equal to 2, then I be equal to 3. So here we will have 1, 2, 3, 3. So if we were to fit an ML model here, then we will get no errors. Okay, so that's what we have. So does that answer your question? So what we are doing is we are converting data from this form, which is data 1, to be in the form of data 2. Do you understand what we are doing now then? Yes, Jesse?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? Okay, so if you have no other questions, then I think we can end the class there for today. So we've covered one concept for today. So tomorrow we won't have a class, so till next week, Monday. So tomorrow is Friday. So next week on Monday, we will cover another concept. So maybe 2 concepts to make sure we fully utilize the 1 hour we have for the class. So for me, I usually teach for 1 hour. Then I give you time to like revise what we've discussed for the other hour. Yeah, so that's all for today. Let me stop the class recording.